Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and this is episode number 55, Feeling Alive, no matter how your pilot season is going. Listen, just want you guys to know, we're coming up on March. March is a notoriously heavy month for actors. Everyone is freaked out about how their pilot season did or did not go. Just remember, pilots are down to 55 this year. That is almost half the number it was even just, I think, 3 years ago. But the truth is that's just the way that the business is shaped. But there's actually so many more opportunities as a whole. Things are going straight to series. There are lots of pickup orders guaranteed to give people a full show order for a first season. So just this sort of idea of like we do this like pilot thing and then they test it out and then they see and then maybe they go. That's just not really something that most networks are participating in anymore. So though there's still a lot of residual energy around that experience, just know that that's really not indicative of what we're doing. We have a really robust, booming, creative business happening, and it's happening all year. And pilot season is not really the thing that it used to be. So don't be disheartened. Try to avoid compare and despair. Try to avoid FOMO. There's plenty happening all year. It's a really exciting time to be in this business. Okay, so today we have Charley Flyte. Charley Flyte is an actress that I had connected through the CSA and SAG-AFTRA town hall meeting for Native American Indigenous Peoples seminar that happened. It was a panel discussion, and I was so inspired that evening. It was so exciting. I posted in November that I was really interested in seeking out an actor of Native American Indigenous heritage to have on the podcast. And so when this town hall came about at the end of the year, I really was so excited to come and talk with that community and really just sit and listen and learn. And Charley and I had found each other, and she agreed to come on this podcast. And she's really had just such a wonderful and exciting fall and new year. I just got an email from her just yesterday that she is going straight to producers for a Peacock show. So I couldn't be happier for her. She's got new reps. She's going out. She's moving and she's grooving. We recorded this obviously a few months ago. So I'm so excited for her and the movement that she is making in her career. We talk a lot about cycles of poverty, and Charley and I had just really discussed, we wanted to make sure that we were clear that just because a person is Native American or Indigenous or First Nation, that does not equal that they are impoverished. That she wanted to make sure that we clarify that though her circumstances have some financial difficulties attached to them, like many of you, I think that's part of what makes this episode is so great. You'll really be able to identify with this. So many of you who feel a little financially strapped. And she wanted to just make sure that we clarified, and I think this is so accurate, that this is not necessarily a blanket statement about Native American Indigenous people as a whole. Many Native American Indigenous actors and individuals have wonderfully robust financial circumstances. And so we just wanted to sort of say that out the gate, just so everyone knows. Okay, so this is a leveling up episode. It is an emotional episode because we talk a lot about finances, emotions, feeling like you can't, catch a fucking break, and have people see you and acknowledge your work and your talent, which is something that we all really identify with. So no matter your circumstances, no matter your background, no matter how you're coming to this business today, right now, as you're listening to this episode, I think this is a wonderful episode that we can all relate to. And I hope to find empathy, compassion, camaraderie, and information between each other in this episode. I'm very happy about it. So, all right, you guys, this episode is sponsored by WeAudition.com. That's WeAudition.com. And Dana Patrick Photography. Dana Patrick, my girl, my jam. I love you, Dana. Dana Patrick Photography. All right, you guys. I hope you're on your way to an audition. Book it. So many of you guys are booking jobs. I'm so proud of you. Book it.
Audrey helps actors because they don't know anything.
Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and today we have
Charley Flyte.
Hi, Charley.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm so happy that you're here. Really, really, truly. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too.
Yay, are you?
Yes.
Okay, good. Why don't you go ahead and tell everyone a little bit about you, where you are in the industry, how long you've been acting for? Did you go to any kind of conservatory? What is your sort of training situation right now? Do you have representation? Have you worked before? Are you union? You know, all those sorts of things.
Okay. I have acted since I was 5 when I played a lamb in the Christmas play at school, and it was amazing.
Yes.
I wore a lamb costume behind a cardboard cutout of a lamb. Which I don't know why that was there.
you know.
But then I came out for my song number.
How cute.
And it was really great because I was a very shy child, and it was a wonderful way to connect with other people.
Cool.
So let's see. I majored in film in college, and the theater program didn't really exist at my school when I started.
Tell everyone where you went.
I went to Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland.
Great.
And after school, I moved to New York and studied at the T. Schreiber Studio. And I am union. I have a couple co-stars. I have representation now.
Yeah, she's awesome. I'm excited. Let's talk about it. I think it's great. Love.
And I've been in LA a couple of years.
Great. Tell me about your particular journey of both, I would say, attack and also reception.
Okay, so before I moved to LA, I had only played a Native American character twice.
Okay.
And one was in a play and one was in a reading. And those were the only 2 characters I had ever come across that were actually real people and not caricatures or stereotypes or sort of cardboard cutouts of people, you know, like what they thought a Native person might be. And when I moved out here, I got connected with Native Voices at the Oak Tree, of which I am now a member. And it's the only equity theater that develops and supports Native playwrights. And so there's a large group of Native actors that come and perform their works.
Awesome.
So that gave me a community, a home, and a lot of Native friends. And I...
It's all right. We've got Kleenex. Yeah.
I never had that before.
Yeah.
And I didn't grow up on a reservation. And most of my life, I was the only Native person in the room besides my family members. And so when I did the Short Play Festival last year, we got together on the day of the readings. They had a local elder come and do a blessing. And I just never thought that would happen in my life, that I would be in a room full of Native people performing work written by Native people, and that we would have an elder there to give a blessing. So it's really a lovely thing and a miracle, and something that I very much appreciate. So I attack, I guess, through Native Voices. They send out to the email list casting calls, and through that, I went out for my first pilot audition, like shortly after moving here.
Cool.
Which was awesome because
Yeah.
nothing was happening in New York. And I've had a lot of health problems that I'm still not really sure how to deal with, but I'm working on it. So about a year ago, I was like, well, I guess I'm a theater actor because that's what I'm getting work in. And this is actually a really exciting time in Native theaters. There are a lot of playwrights like Kathryn Nagle and Larissa FastHorse writing amazing, beautiful plays, and they're creating a lot of opportunity for Native theater actors. So I sort of like dropped into acceptance. Okay, I'm going to be a theater actor. I'm going to write, and that is what is going to happen. Also, since moving here, I joined a First Nations screenwriting group and found a whole other community there.
Can you tell them, for those who are uneducated, what First Nation is versus Native American?
So it's kind of the same thing. First Nations is the term that Canada uses. I'm not sure why that one was chosen over Native American. I didn't create the group, but
some people listening may not be familiar with that term.
Sure,
so I just wanted them to know.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you began working and collaborating in that group.
And so got a lot of support out of that. And through that was asked to participate as an actor in a staged reading at the New Normal Reading Series, which is a monthly reading series produced by Floyd Reeves of Broken Barriers Entertainment. And he supports diverse writers. So there's Team Native American, Team African American, Team Asian American, Team South Asian, Team Latinx. And so we all come together once a month to support each other and hear new works. And it's a really wonderful, lovely, and supportive community. And through that, Floyd asked me and my friend Carolina Hoyos to be co-captains of Team Native.
Cool.
So now we source and support other writers to have their works read. And that is a really wonderful opportunity. So my community here has just grown leaps and bounds.
So I want to talk about a couple of statistics for those listening. A real reason why I'm so passionate about it, too, is I really want... some of these statistics are so terrible. And I think that what I love so much about this town hall meeting was some of the things that were said. I was so moved by and so shocked by, though not shocked. And I really believe that we can't go about solving problems until we're really honest about them and really look at them. And so one of the statistics, so that people can know, is about series regulars. So this is one of the actresses, Kimberly, who had talked, incredible speaker. Kimberly, I feel like I want to marry you, just like when you get this, I'm married, but I'd go for it if you're down.
Thruple.
We'd be really great friends at the very least. And she had said there was a study done at the USC Annenberg, and she said that from the early aughts until 2015, 2,789 total series regulars across the platforms, in the United States. Of those 2,789, the number of Native American series regulars is 3. 3, you guys. 3. And I was not surprised by that number, but I was very devastated in its validation and reality, I will say. And we just have to do better. And one of the things that I really noticed for myself is part of why I'm so passionate about just the extroversion of a problem, of a deficiency, is that then I can look at my own work, right? I can look at my own work. And if many of you are writers, many of you are creators, and I want you to think about the things that you've thought about writing and think, did it even occur to you at any point to have any Native American inclusion? Do you personally even know? Do you know personally? I'll even say through a friend. Do you have a friend of a friend who's an actor that you know who is Native American? And I was able to look at a lot of the things that I've written. We're all writers here, right? And shows, movies, pilots, whatever. And I'm born and raised in a very, I don't think inclusive is the right way to put it. The Native American population in New Mexico is a very big presence in New Mexico, is what I would say. And so I feel like if it wasn't something that I even thought to write for or include or seek out, then I just can't imagine. Who else is, right? So I really like that number being known, because then we can really do something about it. And it deserves a lot of attention. Another thing that was spoken that I thought was really great was one of the gentlemen there had said, don't just put me in the past, put me in the future. Why is it that as a Native American, I can't be in the future? And I thought, my God, like that is so true. I don't know when I've seen a Native American represented in the future. Like, why aren't you on a starship somewhere, right?
Put me on a starship.
Yeah, please put him on a starship, right? And I just feel like, I was like, yes, right, of course, that's so weird. But it's only going to be because somebody from within your community can then articulate that, and then other people articulate that then somebody can hear what I think is a no-brainer, like not only idea, but like of course, like, and then it's weird that it's not a thing, right? Then it's like, well, why not? That's a weird thing that's a weird thing. That's the only way that then somebody who's listening to this, somebody who's maybe a writer's assistant somewhere, a lot of you are married to creators, a lot of you are married to showrunners, and you can just mention that statistic to your husband or wife and like let them know, please. So I'll sort of open the floor to you on all of that and what you would like to say about where you see things, opportunities now, where you'd like to see them grow.
Well, as to the idea of placing natives in the future on a starship somewhere, maybe. I actually think that before 2016, most Americans thought that all Native people were dead.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's presented in like elementary school and high school history books. So, you know, I've been told many times, you know, that phrase, I thought you were all dead.
Wow, that's just like so mind-blowing to me.
And, you know, it's like very weird to receive that over and over and over again.
It's an understatement. Yeah.
And this was brought up at the town hall too, that Standing Rock really shone a light that that we're still here,
and that people care about you.
That people care about us, and that a lot of people care about us. And I had just moved here to LA while that was happening, and my brother and his wife took a whole bunch of supplies out to Standing Rock, and there were fundraisers here all the time, and people were inviting me to go. People that didn't even know I was Native. And that was very powerful to me. So now I feel that there is an awareness. And since moving to LA, I have noticed an increase in opportunities and quality of opportunities. The writing is better, the characters are better, and it's more interesting. I went from crickets to going out for series regulars, which was amazing to me. Did those shows get picked up?
Yeah. Well, part of, you know, if we can pause real quick and talk about that, because, you know, I have best friends of who are actors of all, you know, ethnic backgrounds. And there is a very real thing that occurs, just so everyone knows this, because you just may not, that there is a thing about making pilots of certain ethnic groups so that the optics are, oh yeah, no, we tried that. It's kind of like interviewing. It's like having a job interview and interviewing, you know, diverse applicants so that you can say like, oh no, you know, we tried it. No, we met with people, we interviewed them. But at the end of the day, like Susan's just going to hire her white friend, Bob. Right. And that's part of what happens in any business. And we're no stranger to that. So I just want people to know that's a very real thing. The optics of inclusion versus then the reality of what's included, right? Okay.
So let's see. So to a young Native actor, or any age, because of Native Voices at the Oak Tree, and because of all of these groups, there is a home here. If you want to leave where you are, not saying that you should or have to. Right now, Sterling Harjo is casting in Oklahoma for his show Reservation Dogs. And it's, you know, I've seen his Instagram posts and it's just, you know, lines, huge numbers of kids. And that is really amazing. And Renee Haynes is also in Oklahoma casting for Martin Scorsese's upcoming film, Killers of the Flower Moon. Cool. So, who knew?
Who knew? Now,
Who knew?
Can I ask a question about that? Because that's one of the things I really want to do is, I have access to a lot of people who create reels and footage for actors. Mm-hmm. And these companies like to help actors who maybe don't have the finances to pay for that sort of thing themselves, which would be an economically devastated community, say, such as Native American, right? And is there a running hashtag or something that is currently in use for any filmmakers or any even any one of these reel companies that they can specifically type in to seek, even if it's self-tapes or reels or anything for the Native or Indigenous actor?
So thinking of the hashtags that I use on my posts, it's like hashtag Native, hashtag Native actor. And then because I'm Lakota and Mohawk, I'll be hashtag Lakota, hashtag Mohawk, hashtag Haudenosaunee. I didn't know that those companies existed.
They do, right? And I think that they're very much, I can speak to the ones that I know, they are very much interested in that one of the ways that they can contribute to underrepresented communities is acknowledging the economic disparity and being able to offer a resource of, thank you so much in trading in your work and your time. I'll give you footage of a quality so that you can have footage, right? Because it's so much of the game now, right? So we'll go ahead and start talking a little bit about your journey if you want to. But is there anything else that you're thinking of that you'd want to further with?
Sure. I would say to non-Native creators, writers, executives, there's a lot of Native talent out there. There are a lot of writers. There are a lot of actors. The WGA has a Native American committee, and they have a list. And they have a list of WGA writers and a list of pre-WGA writers. And SAG-AFTRA also has a Native American committee. And, they know who everyone is in town.
And to the actors, too, I just want to also let you know, I had told some actors to go to that town hall, and because of the tips that were given by the casting directors at that town hall, they've already been called in for auditions. Cool. Okay, great. Okay, so Charley.
Yes.
How can I help you?
Fix my life, Audrey.
Okay. Piso, piso.
Audrey Moore, fix my life.
That's right. That's going to be our new theme song. Audrey Moore, fix my life. Hilarious. Okay, great. So tell me in specific how I can help you. You have, you just signed with an agent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell everyone a little bit about how that happened.
Okay, so the casting director that I first went out for when I moved to LA, her name is Renee Haynes, and she has a lovely associate, Elise Boudel. And I went out for a play, one of Larissa FastHorse's play, and I didn't book it, which is, I think, important for actors to remember. Yeah. I didn't book it. And from that, they had me do a self-tape for a lead role in another of Sterling Harjo's show. And I didn't book that either. And so at the town hall, I was out in the lobby afterwards talking to friends, and Renee and Elise came up to me and they said, we know what you look like, but because we connect mostly through email, the actors generally don't know what we look like. And so we just wanted to come over and say hello and thank you for the beautiful work you do, sometimes on a very quick turnaround. And we appreciate you. And we're always looking for something for you. And we're going to keep trying, and we're going to do it. We're going to find something for you.
Oh, God.
And Elise introduced me to their new assistant. And she said, I'll never forget Charley's callback for Larissa's play. It was so beautiful and moving. I'll never forget it. And I was like, I didn't book either of nice.
Yeah. But that's the thing about it. I'm such a nerd about that Star Trek saying you can do everything right and still lose.
Yeah.
And that's our business. Yay.
That's woo, so fun.
Yeah.
So I went up to Elise and I was like, oh my God, nobody ever does this. Nobody ever says this. I was like, but thank you so much because as the actors on the panel had been talking about how there were highs and lows, sometimes during the lows, I've been like, what am I even doing here? I want to move to the desert, like Georgia O'Keeffe, and live alone and paint flowers and talk to my cat and never see people ever again.
Yes.
And I was like, so I might, I'll think about staying a little bit longer. And so I left and I sat in my car and cried.
It's such a I know in New York you always cry on the subway.
You cry on the subway.
And then I'm in my car and I'm gone. It's very real. Good.
And there had been an agent at the town hall who had stood up in the middle and she had said, how do I find Native actors?
Everybody raised their hands. Right, yeah.
The whole room raised their hands. And so the next day I was in the middle of writing an email to her, hey, it's, blah, blah, blah.
Here I am. You wondered where I was.
And I got an intro email.
Great.
From Renee.
That's awesome.
I got a referral.
Awesome.
And so Sam said, great, send me a self-tape that she's done for you. And they sent her that first one for the pilot that I didn't book.
Yeah.
And then she said, great, let's have a meeting. I panicked. I texted so many friends. I was like, what do I do? Yeah. And then I met with her, and she was so great and so passionate. It was like she has a fire under her to support Native actors and to get us out there and to get us, in doctor roles and on spaceships and all kinds of things. And it was just a really sort of surreal experience. But I think that was part of, I feel like, the leveling up energy that opened up when I said yes to you.
Oh, cool.
So,
awesome.
So just so everybody knows, a friend of mine tagged me in her Indigenous Peoples Day post that she was looking to do this podcast with, a leveling up podcast with an Indigenous actor. And I went back and forth with her, and I was like, I'm not ready.
Well, I have to say, you got to be ready for me. That's real. It's real, you guys. It's real.
Be so ready.
Yeah.
Be so ready.
Yeah.
And I was saying, I could refer all of these people.
Yeah.
They should do it instead. It shouldn't be me.
Yeah.
And my friend Lenore was like, "You're crazy. Get over yourself."
Yeah.
And go talk to her. And then, so I met you at the town hall. I got there early. Get to places early.
Yes.
And you were just so lovely and fun. And then I mulled about it for 24 hours. And I was like, I am crazy. And so I will do it. And since stepping into that energy, it's like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing now. Now I actually do. I have to step into the leveling up energy and actually level up.
But wait, Charley, wait. I have to interrupt you.
Help me. I need some help.
And now it's time for listener questions.
I'm so scared.
Okay, this listener question is brought to you by WeAudition.com. That's WeAudition.com. I know so many of you are joining WeAudition. I think that's so great. I use WeAudition frequently. It's just helpful for me. I've said it a bunch of times. I'm the kind of person that needs to run it. I don't have a ton of luck with the ideas that I imagine in my head being these super cool things that then actually manifest once I start to put it up on its feet. I'm the kind of person that I work it and then I get impulses as I work it. And those impulses are sort of more alive and more authentic and more spontaneous because I'm working it through on my feet with somebody. And I've had a lot of luck doing that on WeAudition with all kinds of people who are just reading it with me, and I can just sort of get it under my feet. I like to do we audition before I go and see a coach privately. I find that to be really helpful. That way, by the time I get to the coach, I'm sort of audition ready. I'm ready to go. And then the work session with the coach is like really productive and fine-tuning. And I'm not just showing up for the coach to just like fix me and make this all work. Like your coach can only make you as good as you come prepared to be. All right, weaudition.com. Promo code Audrey25 for 25% off.
Hello, Audrey. My question is, should I be looking for an agent during pilot season? I know based on the way things have evolved that pilot season is no longer just this time. It's more year-round based on the streaming services and all the new shows out there. So that is my question. I'm in need of an agent. I don't think my agent has the clout, rather, to get me in the door, even for theatrical, even though I do have credits. I don't think they're that noticeable or notable, rather, even though there are some guest stars and quite a few shorts. The other thing to add to that is that I'm also a writer and director, and I've had a documentary feature that went on to screen at several film festivals and won some awards. I also had a show that was endorsed by a national organization, and I have other scripts in development and a series in development. And lastly, I just did a short that just got into a film festival, and they will select winners from there to go on to screen at Cannes in France. So all that said, I need a new theatrical agent, and then I'm wondering if I should look separately for my lit and separately for theatrical. And I'd love some advice how to leverage that, how you would pitch yourself. So that's a lot of stuff, but I appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Hey there, I love this question. So I want to clarify first about looking for agents during pilot season versus fall episodic season versus like agent season. So I've talked a lot on this podcast before about agent season being really May, June, and then a little bit of a pickup in October. So that is really for a level of agent and above. So these are agents who are really actually going to get people in for pilots. So if you are an actor that has some sizable credits, you've got some momentum behind you, or you're in a category that has a lot of heat on it right now, then that's somebody that an agent season might apply to. So this is somebody who's getting calls directly from networks or from showrunners or from casting, and casting before they even really go and post anything on the breakdowns says, I've got this show coming out. Who do you have for me? Okay, so that's really like an agent that you're going to reach out to only during agent season. If you're a person that doesn't have any credits, you don't have any co-stars, you're going to sort of be looking for your first sort of representation bracket. These agencies and managers that are maybe a little bit on these beginner starter pack, we'll say, group of representatives, that those aren't really necessarily taking pilot season and fall episodic season into account. They may be to some degree, but I don't think it's as big of a deal, particularly if you're talking, I think, about some of the managers and just a lot of these agents that are sort of like your first go round, right? So for many of you, you can just go ahead and begin looking for representation at any time of year. And also the representation thing is sort of like, can be a lot of connections. Just because an agent that you like, who's maybe at a larger agency, doesn't have the ability to take you at this moment, doesn't mean that won't build into a relationship where at another date and time, you'll be at a place and they'll be at a place where the relationship can become beneficial. The first time that Abby had pitched me to her then management company, they told me no. And it was 2 years before we were able to work together in an official capacity. So just know, like, it takes some time. That's okay. It just might take a minute. And take those relationships and know that any relationship is something that you can grow and build upon. As far as your personal question about this lit side / filmmaker creative side versus the acting side, what I hear from representation is it doesn't necessarily cross over. That, say you have an agency that's a big name agency like CAA, that the agency who has the lit department if they're excited about you in a lit capacity and they really want to take you on, and you also want some theatrical representation as an actor, that they may dangle that carrot to you of like, and we'll get you in with our acting side. But what I hear is the actual ending result is that the acting side, like you're like on their roster, but they're not really working for you. They're not really pushing you. And I hear vice versa is true if it's the other way around, that if they're interested in you as an actor, but then you also want to be represented in a creative capacity as a filmmaker or a showrunner or a writer, director, whatever that is, that they'll sort of dangle the carrot of like, and we'll sign you on the creative side as well, but that those creative people aren't really necessarily going to be excited about you if that's the situation. So if you really want somebody who's passionate about you in both sides, you kind of have to have fire happening in both sides. You need to have fire happening as an actor. You need to have fire happening as a lit person. If you have more fire happening as a creative than you do as an actor in terms of like sellability, then it may be something that you should do is to consider a good agent for the lit side and then have a good manager who can handle sort of your work on a greater capacity. I'm not really sure which managers there are. There are some management companies that are sort of big scope management companies. They do producing, they do actors, they do creatives. You know, they're, I think, hard to get in with, but if you can, I think that might be something that is something you should consider. It's a little hard to tell by all the things you're saying to me because I just want you guys to understand from a perspective of somebody who's going to buy you. When you say, I have this short that went to this film festivals and I have lots of pilots and shows in development, that requires a lot more information for me to decide whether or not that equals money to me. Because a lot of actors can say like, or creatives can say, I have a show in development. And what that means is translation, I'm writing a show. And I've met with a friend who works at HBO in the accounting department. You know, it's just like actors and creatives, they do so much sort of like utzing, I would say, in selling what they've actually got going on. And somebody who's going to pick you up or take a meeting with you is likely going to really probably suss out your actual financial viability in any of that and that process. So I can't give you a great answer because I don't have enough details about the specifics of what any of your creative projects, what they actually really look like and what that really means in terms of being able to be exchanged for money. So there you go. Hope that's helpful. I am excited for you, and I hope that you find somebody really wonderful who can handle your full creative capacity. May you become greater than Phoebe Waller-Bridge. May that happen for you.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
So now we'll talk about like real life stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to help you level up your career. And a lot of that, as you all know, is going to have to do with my favorite 3 resources, which is time, energy, and money, right? So if you are freaked out all the time, your energy is going to be low. If you are spending your time in a job and then you don't have the energy, then it's hard to put yourself in a position to give time to the things that you want to give time to, right? And then money, right? It's like a real basic question of how much money do you have to put towards your career and towards the growth of your career? And so for you, it sounds like we have a real health thing.
Yeah.
And also in the meantime, as that's happening, know that there's still very much work that you can do. There is, I love what you had said because it really sounded like a place of surrender, right? And I talk a lot on this podcast about getting to a place of surrender of like, this is it. This is who I am. And this is either going to be enough or it's not. And like, this is who I am, right? And I find so much power in surrender. And so I'm not altogether surprised either that it's once you had that surrender that then we were able to find each other and then you were able to go to this and then get this agent. I think that's all really a lot of harmony happening, which I think is really beautiful. You guys, poor little Charlie over here. It's hard. It's okay. This is very Audrey Helps Actors. It's fine. So how many hours a week are you working at this job right now?
I was until about a week ago working 40.
Okay. And then what happened?
They cut me back to part-time.
Okay.
And even full-time, it's not enough money. Mm-hmm. You know, so now it's even less. Not enough money.
So that they cut you down to part-time as you're like making this focus shift happen.
Right.
You know, I found that to happen to people where they're like, actually over in this lane, and then the lane they were driving in just sort of starts to close down.
Right.
And they're like, what? And then they realize like, oh, you know, I believe in that saying of like, sometimes God does for you what you won't do for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So here you are, sorry, atheists. So here you are, they've moved you to part-time. Now, what is the likelihood or availability of you getting another kind of job? And what kind of job can we help you get that you would be making the amount of money that you need and in either less time that you're spending, like I like people making money but not spending a ton of time making that money.
Right.
/ or if that's not true, I would like you to, it's okay if you're spending a lot of time making the amount of money you are making if in exchange you are actually getting like a crossover value in your professional pursuit. Mm-hmm. So for somebody who's maybe working in a casting office but isn't making the money of somebody who's bartending at a high-end bar, but the person who's in the casting office is trading the flexibility and hours off for relationships and a greater understanding of how processes work and all those sorts of things. So I sort of feel like that's okay, but you just have to sort of know, right?
Yeah. In the spring, I had been listening to your podcast and talking about like the time that you spent waiting tables and the money that you were then able to receive. And I was like, that sounds great. I had worked previously as a waitress for 3 days before quitting. It's like, this is terrible. I hate my life. It's only been 3 days. Get me out of here. And so after listening to you talk about that, I was like, maybe I just need to find a good restaurant. And, you know, we're going to get woo-woo. This is LA.
I like it.
It's like so woo-woo.
If you're not a woo-woo actor, then you don't belong.
Yeah, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? So I like said to a friend, I was like, you know, I think I might start waiting tables again. Like that would be great. And I was in the job that I am now. It's a temp job. It was supposedly ending. And then the next day, a friend of mine called and said her restaurant was hiring. Oh, cool. So I took the job.
Okay.
And my temp job did not end. And I was not making enough money at either.
To really invest in making, yeah.
Because
like at a restaurant, the more available you are, the more you
make. And then so I was working 2 jobs for a month and crashed. And then quit the restaurant and the restaurant went under.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. That's amazing.
And so I was like, okay.
Yeah. Right.
And then, so I'm in my current job now in accounting at a hotel and booked a play that paid no money.
Yes.
It paid some money, but it was not money.
No money.
Yeah,
right.
And I did it and it was a beautiful experience.
Good.
And my current job had said, we'll hold your job for you. So when you come back, you'll have your job. So I thought it was great. I come back. I email them. I say I'm back. They were like, we hired somebody else.
Oh, shit. It's part of this business, though, that's hard about it. Right?
Yeah.
But I want to talk to you a little bit about some financial planning because one of the things that I'd say your community, I can't speak for all, but your community is definitely facing is just lots of economic poverty cycles, right? And when that's true, I find it's hard for those actors to take risks because there's actually nobody that'll bail you out, right? And that's a hard thing for somebody who comes from a different background to understand and take seriously. And it's part of why it's hard for certain groups to get any leg up is they're just financially, like literally depressed, right? So in order to get out of that, you know, you talked about like getting these plays and getting these opportunities. I would really like for us to create and have you create a financial plan for yourself that could withstand the receiving of opportunities without then that equaling being broke. But that's going to take some planning, and it's just because, you don't have parents or grandparents that you can call and say, hey, I can't afford rent this month because I took this job and I got fired from my job. But I want you to feel like you could get fired from a job because you have to take an opportunity that you should very much take. So I want you to take Miata's money management class over at the Actors Fund, okay? Managing nuts and bolts and is the prerequisite, and then
I think I
managing
took
cash
it
flow.
in New York.
You might have. So the New York one, you probably took the one day, and then there was like a 6-week class. Okay?
Yeah.
It's 2.5 hours a week. Not a big deal. Miata and I are really passionate about financial education and empowerment. And, she's a woman of color. She's African American. And I'm very passionate about communities that are economically depressed getting the tools they need, because I think a really important part of supporting your story being told is the economic education and assistance to allow you to pursue this profession. Like pretty simply, right? And it's a very scary thing to feel that there is no net underneath you.
Yeah.
I'm also becoming keenly aware of the realities of how much money you need to make as an actor to make a living as an actor. And then how much money you need to make as an actor in order to save to not have another job while you work towards your next job. That's a tricky combination that's coming up more than ever. I don't know how long it would take for you to book a job that then would consistently pay for some bills. But I also really want you to be very well prepared for when you book that job, what that money is actually going to look like by the time you paid everybody out.
Yeah.
Okay? That's part of what you're going to learn in Miata's class, is you're going to learn all of that. Okay? We need to create for you some financial solid ground. And we can do that a couple ways. I feel like we can do that through a job that is more or less like, that's your job, like serving, right? And through creating financial solid ground, I'd like for us to create an active savings account plan, which is a monthly amount that you are actively saving. And we'll call it the oops, you have to fire me fund, right? And so this is a planned savings so that if you had to take a job, which I would want you to feel like you could take, and it would maybe mean the losing of a job, that you're financially prepared to have a little bit of a runway so that you could go get your next job.
Yeah.
Okay? I'd also like for you to not worry about it so much in the sense that I believe when you're a really great employee, they support you, they encourage you. So some things that we really have to talk about with regards to certain jobs, we have to be very honest about racism, particularly for a lot of these high-end restaurants, right? And no matter how liberal everyone wants to pretend that they are, I can say pretty honestly that at the restaurant I had worked at that was very high end, they would just have not hired you. Pretty known for being pretty racist. And that's that Beverly Hills life, right? But I don't think that that's true for a lot of places where people are making good money.
Yeah.
They value energy, they value enthusiasm, they value efficiency, all things that I think you could very much bring to the table, right?
Right.
So I'd like to take a second and I'd like to reach out to the listeners. Hey, guys. So if you are currently working at a restaurant and you know them to be generous and open-minded, and, you're going to find Charley on Instagram. You'll see her. And this is somebody that you think could belong at your establishment, I'd like for you to reach out to her. She will happily give you her resume. And if I had my druthers, you would have a financial plan that would look a little bit like getting you stable. So I don't know how financially unstable you are right now, but getting you stable, sort of, if you have debts, that we just get them to a place where they're managed, right? We look at them, and Miata's class will help you do that. And then at the same time you're stabilizing, you are growing like certain pockets that I'd like you to grow.
Yeah.
And so one of the pockets is going to be a planned savings for what we'll call like, oops, you have to fire me money, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I'd like for us to plan for is certain logistical things for our business, okay? I want for you more headshots. I think the ones that you have are solid, but I like a few more looks for you.
Okay.
Okay. Really look at the shows that are currently casting specifically Native and Indigenous and what those worlds are, right? Yellowstone has some like very, I would say like Indigenous in, I guess more of a stereotype way, but also has some like, I'm just a secretary and I'm part of this world, right? And I think like a woman who works at a bank, a woman who works, who's the senator's assistant, like all of that is great for you. Comedy to drama, I think you can have a range. Don't be afraid also to shoot a couple of different looks with a couple of different photographers. This is another thing that I've learned is that I now think like, oh, maybe it's unrealistic to expect that one photographer is going to be able to handle that much versatility.
Right.
And just like actors, I'm sure every photographer thinks they can.
Yeah.
Right. But just like actors, not usually the case. Right. And I want them at really quality places, Part of what also happens, right, with like cycles of poverty and those sorts of things is then you can only afford the people that aren't going to take you to the next level, right? That can be like a $500 to $1,000 investment. So I would like a plan. Honestly, Charley, even if it takes a year, I really want you to know, like, there's something really beautiful about like really looking at your circumstances and then just knowing like they're not ideal, but they're not going to break you, right? And just going, that's actually solvable. Like I actually can solve that, right? You can solve it. It's not going to, oh, I know, my sweet, sweet love. I know. Listen, I have been there. That's why I do the podcast is I've been there.
Yeah.
I have,
Talk about like I have the savings account.
Yes. Good.
I have my acting savings account. I have a contingency plan savings
Great.
account.
Love it.
And that's great.
Yeah.
Until I'm driving home from work and my starter goes out.
Yes. I mean, it's so real. And all you have to do is just go and see, here's what I would love. And here's what really breaks my heart for you, Charley. And for all of you listening is like how emotional that is for you. Right. And there's so much emotion wrapped up in money. There really is. And there's so much of feeling like, like you fucking got cuffs on you. Right? Like it just prevents you from like a fucking weight that you have to like lug around. Right? So all that says to me is that though you have that and you have that growth, we just have to continue to grow it. And we need to get a job that continues its growth at a little bit of a higher.
Oh, yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Right? And because I don't want to have a thing happen and then all of your savings is wiped out. And then it's going to take you a year to bring it back.
Yeah.
So that means having a kind of job on a level of a job where you can have a certain kind of growth that's a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Right? I just want to say to you, like, it is solvable. You're going to need help. You're just going to need help. But here we are. We're going to help you. Right? And there's a lot of people out there who are excited and able to help you. Okay? So if you know a headshot photographer, listeners out there, who are of a quality and you would love to, again, be part of the solution, please find Charley Flyte on Instagram and reach out to her and offer your services. It would be so nice of you to do that.
That'd be so nice.
It would just be so nice of you, right?
The best.
I want you to have a few more scenes for your reel. I think you've got a solid little bit, and I think that you could have even more, right? So I'd like to take the time to talk to listeners who have real companies, who are shooting things, who feel inspired to reach out to these Native voices, to the Native community, and be a part of the solution. And, Charley is going to be available on Instagram at where, Charley?
Charley Flyte, CharleyFlyte.
Great. on Instagram. You can find her. And if looking at her and looking at some of her work, you feel that she would be a great fit to you, please let her know. And please bring her in. That's something that I think would be really great for you. Mm-hmm. And then I think there's some really fun work that you can do for experimentation. Mm-hmm. So do you want some like fun assignments? Okay, great. So you guys, so she sent me a bunch of self-tapes, which were great. And in all kinds of areas, casting. And that's where I could really see that you had a lot of range as far as, I'd say, like economic range of how much money you make as a casting and also, or don't make. And then also education and tone, which is really great. So I would like for you to look at which shows are shooting in Los Angeles. Okay. Watch those shows in particular and really come across what do those actors look like? Mm-hmm. And then see if you can find their headshots. So one way that you can find their headshots is on IMDb, but you can also just type in resumes.actorsaccess.com/ put in their full name. And a lot of times their profile comes up. And then you can see certain things like who's their rep, who's their, what do their headshots look like? How do they get that job? What does their resume look like? And you'll also start to see like a couple of the same girls. And you'll be like, that girl, she's getting a lot of these roles I want, right? Which is great because she's now already been on that show, so she can be on it again. So it's your turn, right? And you also now have a really great agent. So you guys, like, she's with Paradigm. So, hey. And I think that your agent's passion and commitment to you is really exciting. And I think that you should, without being overwhelming, ask for some guidance. I'm going to guess she's going to be really supportive of that. So the one thing that I saw on your resume, or I didn't see on your resume that they had mentioned at the town hall that I think is really important, and you and I can like literally do it when we're finished here, is on the top of your resume, I think you need to put Native American, blah, 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 from the such and such, right?
Okay.
Because the thing happens, so those of you who are Native American, this is a helpful tip for you that happened, which is that because they're legally not allowed to ask you if you are Native American, but there is a movement to cast actual Native Americans as Native Americans to represent that community, that it just makes their job easier and cleaner if they just see it right there, because they can't ask. So we'll just go and do that. They do. They're not legally allowed to. So let's just jump that whole process, and if you're comfortable with it, offer the information.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm very excited for you.
I'm excited. I think like before, like the past couple of weeks, I thought I was like one thing. And then the past couple of weeks happened and I was like, oh no, there's actually something really different happening.
Oh, tell me about that.
It was just like I'm like, oh, I'm here like screaming in the desert alone. And I have so far
to go.
And maybe it's not as far as I thought.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
It's wrapped.
Yeah. Well, I feel also a real movement happening. I really do. And I have to say, I was so inspired by that town hall.
Great.
I was so inspired by it. And so happy to see so many people coming together for movement. It's really great. But wait, Charley, wait. I have to interrupt you.
Help me. I need some help.
And now it's time for listener questions.
I'm so scared.
This listener question is brought to you by Dana Patrick Photography. You can find her on Instagram. That's a great place to find her. You can also find her online at danapatrickphoto.com. I've shot a lot of headshots with Dana, and they get me auditions. They have gotten me auditions for years. I love Dana. As you just heard, we talk in this episode about photographers that can really get a range of comedy and drama. And I will say, I think Dana is so fantastic at that. I've had some really great dramatic shots from her, some really great comedic shots from her, and then some just normal shots from her, everything in between. So danapatrickphoto.com, Dana Patrick Photography, that girl's my jam.
Hey girl, hey, this is Erin. I'm calling from Los Angeles. I'm wearing my Audrey Helps Actors pin on my denim jacket with all my other fabulous pins. Just a side note. My question is about headshots. I had some new headshots done by my very talented now ex-boyfriend, and he is a photographer. He does headshots. He does portraiture, all those things. However, I sent the headshots to my agency, and they are different from my previous headshots. However, they still like the old headshots more. The ones that they picked out from this batch of headshots are not my favorite, and I haven't been getting the enthusiasm or turnaround from my new headshots that I did with my previous ones. So I'm just wondering if it's best to just cut the loss of the headshots that I just got that I'm not really a fan of, but my agency said they wanted, versus just going ahead and getting the new headshots done with the same people that I did before that really, really worked. You know what? I think I may have answered my own question, but I just want to hear what you have to say. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Hey there, honey. So yes, I know this is a big thing. You know, so many people get headshots and then they like them, but their agent doesn't, or they don't like them and their agent loves them, all kinds of things. You know, headshots are such a fascinating world, and it's hard to tell the forest from the trees because honestly, a lot of agents maybe aren't super qualified to be helping you choose your headshots. You know, a lot of times what agents do is they have like these broad strokes categories that they choose, sort of like hipster, millennial, Silicon Valley guy, musician, corporate lawyer, teacher, mom, like these sort of very specific kind of generic patterns that people take. And a lot of times those headshots may be great shots, but they're not really great for your casting. So say you really got like an excellent horror movie shot, and then your agent really loves it because they feel like, wow, what a good shot. I'm going to get you into so much horror in this. But you're actually not really maybe right for the horror genre. And so the headshot is going to get you all these auditions, and then you get auditions, but you're not going to book because maybe it's just not your vibe. And then your agent is going to feel like, well, they're getting you the auditions, and you're going to feel like, yeah, but that's not what I do, I don't think. So that's why I'm not booking. And they are maybe not of a high enough level that they can have an understanding of how that's true and how that doesn't mean that you're not a bad actor. You're not, doing something wrong necessarily. It's just a great shot that happened to happen, but isn't necessarily indicative of your best foot forward in your casting. So it's this really interesting, magical world. It's a collaboration between you and the photographer and your reps, and whether or not you get shots that are really working, I think, is sort of a often accidental discovery process. So for me, if you have agents who don't like your shots, you really have two choices. Either you go ahead and you commit to the shots that you like and you see if they work, and you sort of defy your agents and you just say, I know that these aren't really what you're looking for. I just want to experiment with them and see. And maybe you have a conversation like, and then I'll just go get a new round taken after we've given these a couple months to try. Or you can. My personal feeling is that if shots aren't working, it's a hard thing because you have to give them enough time to see if they work. And then you have to be willing to sort of shut them down. I do think a lot of people have bad shots and they know it, and they put them up anyway because they don't want to lose the money, the time, and the investment. But you're actually losing more money, time, and investment if you put bad shots up. What is a bad shot? That's such a great question. It's a magical question that deserves a magical answer. There's a lot of things that go into what makes a good shot versus a bad shot, which is really about like what's an effective shot versus an ineffective shot. And you could not be getting auditions because of your reps. They don't have the relationships, because you don't have relationships, because your casting isn't coming across. It can be all sorts of things. So yay, headshots. I don't know if that was helpful. I would probably, if I think they're not great, I would just go take another round, save myself a few months of guessing. All right, girl. I think you know what to do. Good luck.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
So social media and anything else you want to plug that you want to plug?
Social media. I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all as Charley Flyte, CharleyFlyte.
Great. Why acting?
She get paid to play make-believe. Sometimes there are explosions and helicopter chases.
I like that you just want to be in a Michael Bay film, it turns out. Amazing. Okay, good.
Hire me for Robopocalypse.
Yes. Uh-huh.
There are native characters in Robopocalypse.
That's right.
But there's such... with the right group, there's such beautiful and profound connection. And that... Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. What is the best part about the business for you?
I think getting to work with beautiful, amazing, kind-hearted, compassionate, talented, fantastically talented people. Yeah, I'm so in awe of my friends' gifts and being able to work with them. And if you have that emotional safety with the people that you're working with, you can do so many things and go so many places. And then sometimes there are explosions.
Yeah.
And car chases.
Michael Bay.
And zombies.
Hilarious. You should totally be on a zombie show.
Aliens.
Yeah, aliens. All of it. Okay, I get it. Okay, got it. What is the worst part about the business for you?
Feeling like I'm never good enough. And, that homework that you gave to compare. And then I look back, over years, and who booked it. There's me, and there's a sample size girl who's not even native, or girls, multiple. And it's just okay, I have to work twice as hard and be twice as good. So it feels like, and I just have acceptance about that now. But it's how do I continue without hurting myself or allowing other people to hurt me? And actually, I had a conversation with a friend recently about the Me Too thing. And I was I'm actually glad in a weird way that I didn't hit before. Because I probably would have picked up and left LA forever, because I know people who did that.
Yeah, I do too.
Who won't even talk about it.
Yeah. I have a friend who, man, she's so fucking good. And I was why are you in Texas? Basically.
Yeah.
And, she's now back to working and all that. But she said, I had one too many of those experiences. And I was only being judged because she's very attractive. But she's really good. And she was and I just was fuck this. And then Me Too happened. And I've been seeing what's going on. And I feel finally.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Finally. And I was so inspired by that, and I feel a lot of that same way. I know it is not easy now, but goodness gracious.
I can't imagine.
I couldn't either. I truly couldn't. Yeah. What do you wish somebody had taught you or managed to get you to understand when you were just a wee babe considering entering this business?
I think a lot of people say this, that it's a business.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to change that.
Yeah.
And that's a movement I'm about. I'm we are learning about money. We are learning about contracts. You are learning about your union. We are done being in the dark and expecting that that's normal, acceptable, and then being shocked when then we're treated poorly. It's no. We're going to now know how we should be treated, how we should behave, and we expect to be compensated fairly for that. Yeah. Mildly interesting. I'll go first and you can go last. Okay. So mildly interesting is something that came out of the town hall meeting. So I talked to you about that. I was what? Was that Los Angeles has the largest population of Native Americans in the country.
That's true.
I came home and told Jesse that, and he was like, what? And I was like, it's true, Google it. He Googled it. I told somebody else that. They were like, what? And I was like, it's true, Google it. And they Googled it. So I'm here to, let everyone know.
Here we are.
I love knowing that. I do. I love that. Great.
It's a great place to be Native.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay, cool.
Mildly interesting. There are beautiful, fascinating, wonderful things going on in Native theater right now. And if you don't know that, you should Google Mary Kathryn Nagle and Larissa FastHorse.
Cool.
And there are other playwrights, but they're just the ones that I'm mostly familiar with, creating original work. And it's really beautiful and really powerful.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. And lastly, any last questions that you have for me?
No.
Good. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you for being so courageous. I know it is not a, you don't just come on Audrey Helps Actors and be like, yeah, I just guess I'll just go on. I know that it takes some courage. And thank you so much for your transparency, for your vulnerability, and Thank you. You got it. You got it. Next week on Audrey Helps Actors, we have Haley Wood. Haley Wood! What's up, girl? Okay, so Haley, she won the Self-Tape Made Challenge last year. And I think that in March, you guys all start getting really depressed. So that's why I created Self-Tape May last year, was because May is notoriously this just really downer month for all actors, because it's very slow and everyone's just feels really sad about, the year starts up with so many high hopes and aspirations, and then each month that goes by that those aren't accomplished, devastation occurs. So I found and believe that production is the basis of morale, as my teacher Milton Casellas used to say. And so the more you're acting, the better you feel. And so we created Self-Tape May. And I just want to begin starting the conversation. And so we'll take a look back at Haley's process. She did 16 self-tapes in May, and she talks a lot about how she thought that was going to be just super easy. And she was like, maybe I'll just do 30. And then she realized getting 16 done was a huge feat of accomplishment, which I couldn't agree more. So she's lovely. This is wonderful. If you did not get to participate in Self-Tape May last year, this will give you a good indication of what we're doing this year. And just know, we're not doing the safety pin again. We're not doing the safety pin. It's going to be something new. So if you've been doing your self-tapes all year with your safety pin, glad you practiced, but you don't get to use it this year. So, tra-la-la, something new I will reveal to you. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening. And special thanks to Charley for coming on. I know this was a really emotional episode. Charley, she just been crying the whole episode, and I was crying right there with her. So I get it. I think the world of her. I think she has just the most wonderful spirit and big heart, and you can't listen to this episode and not just feel it. There's so much about her journey that everyone can really identify with, and I am so happy for her, and I hope for big, exciting things for her. If you have an ability to help Charley in any capacity of headshots, real footage, jobs, any of the following, please feel free to reach out to her. She would love it. Even, even just words of encouragement. We all need a little bit of encouragement. So if you loved this episode and you loved her, just give her a shout out and tell her. All right. Big thanks to Patricia Cuffie-Jones, our first draft editor. You can see her new TV show out now on UMC called Stuck With You. I'm watching it. I'm loving it. Stuck With You, UMC, Patricia Cuffie-Jones. Get it, girl. Also, Thomas Snodgrass. He doesn't live across the street anymore, but luckily the internet exists. And also to my executive producer and husband, still so handsome, you guys, Jesse Lumen, the one, the only, the rock star. Show music is brought to you by Ari De Niro, and our theme song assistance is still brought to you by Aalok Mehta and 108 Hill. All right, don't forget your towel.